What is up, YouTube? We are back in the garage, per usual, once again. I was hoping to be out here super early today since I did have the day off, but edited some videos that you'll be seeing soon, and then decided I was actually going to enjoy a relaxing day. I don't get many of those, so didn't have much going on at the shop. I did not get nearly as much done as I wanted to now, but now I have energy and it's getting later in the afternoon. We got to glue these cases together. Thought I was going to be doing this morning. A little delayed, not a big deal. Also have the rest of the weekend off and Monday, so got a little bit of time. Just thought I would kind of relax today and then get jamming on this. So let me turn you around. We are going to start gluing these cases back together, and then once the cases are glued together, I got to clean up the bench. Should be doing that first, but I got lazy. I am going to be running a brand new set of Colony hardware here. I have all the old stuff, but those are really nice, and they actually surprisingly weren't crazy expensive. So I will use all new hardware. A little bit easier than trying to dig out and clean up all the old parts. That way when I glue the cases together, we can just drop everything in. All the bolts will fit proper. Colony is very good about their hardware. So turn you guys around. Let's get rolling on this thing. All right, as far as case sealers, I usually use Yama Bond or 3-Bond. 3-Bond's what I got today. I just kind of go back and forth and pick whatever I can find when I need it. This stuff usually lasts me a little while, but it is not RTV, which means when the cases compress on this, it is not going to leave giant chunks of silicone on the inside of your motor. Whatever drops into the cases will just kind of piddle out. This can go through your gears and oil pump stuff. It's not going to clog up the pump passages or anything like that. But we're going to lay a rough bead here. Not using the fancy little tip adapter. Just laying a pretty decent glob. I don't need to build this up crazy thick or anything. But just smear a coat on here. I did already brake clean and wipe down all the case halves. And on the back side of this case where the welding repair was done, I am going to leave this a little bit thicker than I usually would. I thought about RTV on that just because they were cleaned up and semi-machined, but never actually refaced or anything, so there's definitely a little bit of room here. I got way too much. This is why I usually use my finger to spread this stuff, but that's fine. When this stuff dries, it's not like RTV, so I'm not going to sweat it too much. way too much. But I can recycle some of this on the other case half too. And like I said, I do want to build up a good amount on this back half. More concerned about that than the front. This is an anaerobic, I believe that's the phrase. Anaerobic meaning that this will solidify and actually seal once you remove air from the mixture. So essentially it'll stay soft until it gets compressed and the air is removed. Once the air is removed, it will tack up and seal. So let me clean up my mess. Alright, we're going to do the same thing on the other case, so I'm just going to gloop this up. Not nearly as much, I put way too much on the other side, but we're going to globber this up and then we'll set this together. Alright, so I got the case. The primary side's being held up by a hammer right now. There's a ton of gloop and stuff everywhere, which is okay. We can address that at a later point in time. But the moment that I have been waiting for forever is happening right now. So we're going to pop this on. Now, one of the other issues I ran into, actually, got a little on the race. You don't want that. I don't mind if this gets squished into the motor, but don't want it onto the race. Oh! This is what happens. I get excited and anxious and start skipping steps. Pinion bearing. You're going to want to make sure these are all lubed up before they actually go back in. Going a little crazy on this right now. But we want to make sure this pinion bearing is all looped up before we drop this back on. I don't always leave them together like this, but like I said, I didn't split the flywheels on this motor. So, that means that I just need to re-grease and re-throw this back in. If it was more elaborate or the full bottom end was redone and the flywheels were redone, it'd be a little different, but that's where we're at. Now we can throw the case on. Now, as much as I want to just press this down, you need, when you're doing these early ones, the motor mount. Because if you keep the studs, the motor mount is also a fixed part of the case. So if I pounded this on first, even there I was too far, it's basically got to go on together with the motor. There's some other stuff that's going to have to go back on this later too, but we'll deal with that a little bit later on. What am I fighting here? Case halves do not want to line up. Had this dry fit and know that it was working. Is it the motor mount? Let's see here. Or the powder on the case studs. This was re-welded, so it might just be a hair tight. There we go. Just hanging up a little bit on the pinion there. But now, double check, make sure all the sealer's still on there. Primary's propped up so the crank can go down. So like I said, motor mount's got to be driven down with the case halves. Trusty dead blow, a little bit of love. And now we have a crank. So what I'm going to do now is start grabbing a couple of the bits out of the hardware. I'm not going to use the new studs because those are already in. But I do need 3 bolts for the upper. It's all new Colony hardware. Studs will stay. 2 washers. 2 nuts. So the washers go on the top one. Stud gets pounded through the case. Just going to get a couple of these laid out real quick before we actually torque any of these down. Not crazy worried about the orientation of these right now either. Just a matter of getting everything in. So that'll kind of stay there. And we got the cam side ones. Those are the primary side. If I was smarter, I would have checked all of these first. That'll go there, there, there. So 1, 2, 3. Big one. What the hell is going on here? Oh, duh. I'm sitting here trying to put the motor mount bolts in, wondering why they're not going to fit. Well, that makes sense, huh? So I got a 1/2-inch wrench here. I'm not doing any final torques or anything yet, just kind of laying this out. Flip it over, and we'll do these ones. One there. Motor mount, motor mount, motor mount. One here. Okay. Now, case bolts are roughly in. None of them are torqued yet. Just snugging them up. Then we can start going through and torquing things down the way they're supposed to be. And I get paint or gasket sealer all over the bottom of this. Then I need a couple 3/8 bolts for the transmission mount. These are not the washers that'll be used for final install, but just want a couple on here to pull this together. Now we're going to go through and start torquing some of these case bolts. So I'm going to start on the inside. First thing you want to do is make sure the crank sounds okay, not making any noise or rubbing, which it is not, so that's good. Now, case bolts, one in here, one size. And I will kind of flip-flop around here. I'm going to start with this inside one. Start at the inside, make your way to the outside. And we can't forget the back three on the motor mount itself. Fine threads on the back. These are the 3/8 bigger ones. These will all get washers too. But for right now, we're just doing a quick go. And getting things laid out so this gasket sealer has time to set up. Grab one more nut. So again, the big part right now is just getting these torqued down to set up the gasket sealer If I need to come back and readdress some of these later on, that's okay. Also, I'm probably going to have to tweak some of these parts when we get around to putting the actual motor into the frame. I like leaving the motor mount loose on these back ones, but actually that's a lie. This should stay, but going into the frame might actually, sorry, just the rear mounts are what we're going to have to leave loose. So one more time, center out, final torque. For now, we'll go back over to the other side and finish that side in a minute. 1, 2, 3. And we got the couple on the front. One there, front one up here, and the last one I gotta grab the motor mounts out of the bin of parts that I got laying around here somewhere. They're so dirty and greasy because I haven't cleaned these up yet. But pulling the frame ones, I just want to have a full seal on this motor. Like I said, these will all come right back off at a later point in time, but I don't like having gasket sealer on a motor that's not actually torqued down, at least for that initial setup when these dry. So we're going to throw the motor mounts on here anyway. Stupid Sportster designs. And I put these on backwards, I think. Of course. This is what happens when you don't prepare well enough. You end up with a bunch of random miscellaneous things. So now I put the motor mount on backwards. Now I gotta fix it. By backwards, I just mean upside down. You want to have all of these laid out the right way from the get-go. So that'll sit like that. This is what we're going for. Get some nice dirty greasy parts all over your freshly coated cases. Not that I don't have a ton of silicone to remove already, but this is kind of a backwards way of doing it. That's what happens all the time. These stupid acorn nuts will go on the other side of this motor. Like I said, these are far from being a final assembly scenario. Instead, they're really just going to be here to hold the cases together while the case sealer sets up. Now, like I said, one final torque on here. Just to make sure these cases stay glued. And that should do it. That is it for the Ironhead case install. Obviously, I don't really want the foot pegs and stuff on, but I forgot that the motor mounts actually run through the case on a Sportster. So just kind of proactively improving parts of these. Much more comfortable with shovel heads. It's been a while since I've done an Ironhead. Comfortable enough to get myself in trouble, but here's kind of what we're looking at. Case sealer is in. I'm going to go through and wipe all this off now before it hardens. This sealer is usually pretty good for getting it off of the cases, but glued together. I definitely over case sealed. I don't usually try and put that much on. Spilled a bunch out the side here, but all the bolts lined up, motor mount went in, case halves are back together, which means after I get done cleaning this up, I'm going to clear off the bench because I've been putting that off for a very long time. But once we get the bench cleared off, this frame will go back onto the bench, and this motor will hopefully go in tonight, at least the bottom end. I'll put the cylinders and the pistons and all the rest of the top end assembly stuff in the frame. I've done it both ways. I can do all of it here. Realistically, maybe I'll throw the cylinders on the cases once this all sets up and dries. I'm not in any crazy rush to slap that together tonight. That'll be later this weekend. But if the cylinders go on, I will put the heads on the motor in the bike. You got to torque them through the pushrod covers on Ironheads, which kind of sucks, but it's way easier than trying to wrestle it in and messing up any of that fresh powder, for one. Two, I'm out here by myself, and lifting motors is getting harder and harder with every passing year. So that's where we're at. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all of those fun things. We got a sporty bottom end ready to go back in the frame. Cannot wait.